I think it also heralds like a new era for Bitcoin as we get into this halving. I think from 20 to 24 was the era of Michael Saylor. He defined that epoch of Bitcoin with his big buys of Bitcoin. And now we're entering into a new era, the Larry Finks of the world. And I'm looking over there at the Mid East at Saudi Aramco, is a huge company with a lot of cash. I think they should get into Bitcoin. I think these are going to be the new mega players in the sovereign states and the sovereign wealth funds who are going to start buying big into Bitcoin. So it's this new era that we're entering into. The U.S. debt keeps going up. And so we're going to head into the big reset at some point. And in one corner will be fiat money. In another corner, which includes CBDC, central bank digital currency, that's another fiat money. Another corner will be gold. And then in the other corner will be Bitcoin. So it'll be a showdown between these three forms of money to see who wins. And I think the smart money is on Bitcoin. Certainly fiat money is going to lose. I think gold is also in the process of being demonetized by Bitcoin.
Max Keiser begins by acknowledging the transformative period for Bitcoin from 2020 to 2024, dominated by Michael Saylor's significant investments in the cryptocurrency. Max identifies figures like Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, as the next wave of influential Bitcoin advocates. He speculates that major corporations, including those with substantial cash reserves like Saudi Aramco, and sovereign wealth funds will soon start acquiring Bitcoin. This shift signals a new epoch where institutional and sovereign players become the primary drivers of Bitcoin adoption. Max emphasizes the impending collapse of fiat currencies, a system that has been in place for about 300 years and became particularly aggressive in the 1970s when the US abandoned the gold standard. The increasing global debt and economic instability point towards an inevitable financial reset. In this scenario, Max envisions a showdown between fiat currencies, central bank digital currencies, gold, and Bitcoin. He is confident that Bitcoin will emerge victorious due to its inherent strengths and decentralization. Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
I think it also heralds like a new era for Bitcoin as we get into this halving. I think from 20 to 24 was the era of Michael Saylor. He defined that epoch of Bitcoin with his big buys of Bitcoin. And now we're entering into a new era, the Larry Finks of the world. And I'm looking over there at the Mid East at Saudi Aramco, is a huge company with a lot of cash. I think they should get into Bitcoin. I think these are going to be the new mega players in the sovereign states and the sovereign wealth funds who are going to start buying big into Bitcoin. So it's this new era that we're entering into. And we should say thank you to Michael Saylor because he did a fantastic job in taking Bitcoin. In my view, he took it out of the gutter because when he appeared on the scene, people were in the shitcoin world, like the Bitcoin Cashes and the Bitcoin's Satoshi Visions and all these other coins and projects and failed nightmares had some agency. People did give them a little bit of play, but when Michael Saylor appeared, and he was so articulate and so brilliant and so aggressive in his Bitcoin position that he really put everybody in the shade, and he did a great job doing that. And he's, I think, really a hero, a Bitcoin hero. We have the collapse of fiat money. I know the fiat money experiment, which is about 300 years old, and then it got very aggressive in the early 1970s in the US when they went off the gold standard. We went on a pure fiat money world. So the results of this are predictably catastrophic, right? The total debt for global debt is it's just skyrocketing to new highs. The US debt keeps going up. And so we're going to head into the big reset at some point. And In one corner will be fiat money. In another corner, which includes CBDC, central bank digital currency, that's another fiat money. Another corner will be gold. And then in the other corner will be Bitcoin. So it'll be a showdown between these three forms of money to see who wins. And I think the smart money is on Bitcoin. Certainly fiat money is going to lose. I think gold is also in the process of being demonetized by Bitcoin. Gold is very sluggish in its price action because of Bitcoin. It's being demonetized by Bitcoin the same way gold demonetized silver. Yep. Gold is being demonetized by Bitcoin. So it's never really going to catch up at this point, and it'll go to effectively to zero against Bitcoin. I mean, there'll still be a price for it, but it'll be effectively zero.
Yeah, well, the same way until we get to the final Bitcoin is like 100 and something, 20 years or something out in the future. The same thing with these currencies. But I think, the important thing to look at is the closer one is to layer one money, and the three, it's hard to be layer one money. Everybody thinks just because, there's like 2 million altcoins and there's hundreds, dozens of international currencies, that it's easy, but it's not easy. That's why so many of them go rapidly to zero. We have gold, the US dollar, and Bitcoin, and those three, right? So El Salvador was already on the US dollar standard. Any country the closest to either US dollar standard or all of those oil-rich countries which sell their commodities for, their oil for dollars, all commodity countries, they sell their commodities for dollars. So those are pretty much on a US dollar standard as well already because of the vast amounts of dollars they receive. So it's easier for them to therefore also introduce Bitcoin because they're not at risk of having no other fiat currency, the best fiat currency out there, right? So it could be the oil-rich countries. It could be Bhutan, by the way, as well. So oil that they sell or vast quantities of previously stranded energy, and Bhutan had a mass amount of stranded hydro. So now they're apparently mining. We don't know how much they're mining, but it looks pretty significant. So they're already pretty much, from what we've seen, on a Bitcoin standard already as well.
He acknowledges the pioneering efforts of figures like Michael Saylor and Elon Musk, who have maintained significant Bitcoin holdings despite market volatility. While Elon Musk's involvement has been less vocal recently, his early adoption via Tesla was instrumental. Max also highlights the historic significance of El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele, who made Bitcoin legal tender in his country. Despite facing international skepticism and media criticism, Bukele's bold move is paving the way for other nations to follow. Max anticipates that another country will soon follow El Salvador's lead, driven by the momentum of the bull market and the desire for financial innovation. He suggests that smaller countries with economic agility, similar to El Salvador, are likely candidates for early Bitcoin adoption. This trend will be accelerated by the entry of the best and brightest minds in the Bitcoin space, who are drawn to regions that embrace the cryptocurrency.
It's hard to be first, and I think we have seen that, right? Michael Saylor was first, and I think, well, also you have to remember that Elon Musk was also involved and put that on his balance sheet, and still has it on I believe it's the Tesla balance sheet from that same period, right after Michael Saylor. So to be fair, he has stuck with his Bitcoin position, most of it, at least on Tesla's balance sheet. And so those two were first. Elon Musk doesn't talk about it as much. He rarely talks about Bitcoin these days. But El Salvador, for a nation state, I think it was, President Bukele is definitely also, like you said, Michael Saylor will go down in history as the best investor, but certainly President Bukele will go down in history as one of the greatest leaders ever in history. So I think you'll see that. And yes, when it's super, super safe and when pretty much the US gives the go-ahead, then other countries will follow, because it is very difficult to stand up against the humiliation. Michael Saylor did, right? As you said, people were mocking him. Many people were mocking him as it kept on going down and down and down. The same thing happened with El Salvador. We were here. We've been working for President Bukele, and we know what it was like to withstand all of the not only the media, but the international institutions who were expressed concern about El Salvador and things like that. So I think most people, that famous video of the leader goes out there and dances, and then it takes a while of being out there looking like a fool, and then the second one comes and dances with the first leader, and then a whole crowd comes. So I think there will be a second follower to El Salvador soon, I feel, in the next 18 months, because this bull market usually drives that sort of adoption at the high level. So I think there's going to be another smaller country like El Salvador. El Salvador is almost like a city state, right? So it's 6.5 million people here. That's smaller than New York City. So I think you'll have a similarly, like maybe a little bit bigger, but it'll still be a relatively small country do the same. The adoption metric that we look at the most at the high level, and I run the Bitcoin office, for example, we look at how many of the best and brightest individuals and companies around the world of Bitcoin are adopting El Salvador, because it's the brains and the talent that build a great economy. And so think of Silicon Valley and how it developed. It wasn't the coffee shops and the bakeries in Silicon Valley area, in the Bay Area, that were adopting an email address or had free Wi-Fi in the 90s. It wasn't that was the metric that everybody looked at. And yet that's a metric what the media will often look at El Salvador and look at all the coffee shops and the pupuserias to see if they're using Bitcoin. Where we believe that in Silicon Valley, what happened was, the capital markets developed there around this industry of software development and, the internet. And we believe we're doing the same here. We're building, we're attracting the best and the brightest, the best builders of Bitcoin, because you can't build a great economy without builders. And we're attracting those builders here. And we've passed all the legislation and regulations for new capital markets on Bitcoin. And you're about to see in the next few weeks what we're going to do with that. You're going to see some big announcements on top of new capital markets on Bitcoin. So that's what we're aiming for. And then the rest will follow. Just like, you could look back at the 90s and all the media interpretations of what the internet and how Paul Krugman's and Katie Couric, remember all those clips of them, like, who would want an email? The same thing. We're at that phase now, and people don't know what metric to look at. But I believe the metric that is most important for us right now at the beginning of this is getting the best and brightest builders in the world to come build the new El Salvador.
Max draws a parallel to Silicon Valley's rise, emphasizing that it's the intellectual and entrepreneurial capital that drives economic growth, not just the adoption of new technologies at the consumer level. El Salvador, under Bukel's leadership, is creating a regulatory and legislative environment conducive to Bitcoin innovation, aiming to establish itself as a global hub for cryptocurrency development. Max concludes by stressing the importance of looking beyond superficial metrics when evaluating Bitcoin adoption. Just as early internet skeptics misunderstood the significance of technological adoption, today's observers often miss the deeper trends in Bitcoin's growth. The real measure of success will be how well countries can attract and harness the talents of Bitcoin's best builders to create a new financial paradigm. Please like and subscribe my channel.